Today is the 15th of July 2026. I'm speaking to John Crockford Hawley, who is a mine of information on everything Weston, and he is going to tell us a bit about the life and times of the Old Town Quarry here in Weston. So as and when you're ready, John, please go ahead.
Right, thank you, Chris. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. So let's take ourselves back to 1815, because we know the quarry was working then. We know the people who used the quarry were very much local people, people who were owners or tenants of what were known as the oyster tenements, had the right to win stone from that quarry. And the little track which went up from Weston to the quarry, now called Queen's Road, was then of course Quarry Lane. And so people would go up, win their stone, use it for whatever they wanted, building their homes, their cottages. And by 1875, when Weston of course had become a substantial town rather than a village, there were 200 descendants of these tenements who claimed the right to win stone. So it's an ancient quarry over which the Lord of the Manor and the Council had very little jurisdiction. It's a bit of ancient history. Then along as Weston developed, so the need for stone became more important. And the local stone here is the hard grey carboniferous limestone, and Weston really is a grey limestone town. Once we had the railway here in the 1840s, it was possible to transport other stone here, particularly the oolitic limestone, which we commonly call the Bath stone, which was brought into Weston because that stone is easier to cut, to shape. And so if you look around Weston-super-Mare, you'll see the walls of the houses are the hard grey carboniferous, but the mouldings and the window surrounds and the quoins, they're all the softer oolitic stone, which is much easier to carve.
Yeah. Do you know, I always thought that was just for ornamental reasons.
No, I mean, it is ornament.
Yes.
Certainly Hans Fowler Price used it to really good effect to create all sorts of ornamental additions. The only snag, of course, with that, because it's softer, it is prone to weathering, and we see examples of weathered Bath stone all around Weston. And wretched people paint it, and the moment you paint it, you trap the water in it, and that helps to deteriorate the stone. But back to the quarry. It was tough work, really, really tough work, and the blokes who worked up there, they certainly earned their paltry money. At the end of a day's work, what would you need? A few pints of cider. So you'd go off to the local tavern for that, and many local pubs were heaving with quarry workers. One at Milton, which we now call the Windsor Castle. It was originally the Mason's Arms, and that's where the quarrymen from Milton would go and drink. Wilbury Hill, of course, is a very long strip of carboniferous limestone, so there were a lot of quarries. There were 3 substantial quarries, but lots and lots of tiny little quarries, now generally either completely redundant or infilled with housing. And of course, on the other side of the valley, the uphill quarry. So Weston was a major quarrying town. How did they get the material out of the ground? Well, God, it was hard work. Blasting and sledgehammering, that's what it was. Nothing sophisticated. Holes were rammed into the rock 6 feet deep by sledgehammers and iron rods. The holes were filled with dynamite. Fuses were put in. The fuses were lit. The men ran away and waited for the blast to occur. Heaven help them if it didn't, and they went back to check it. In 1844, John Day was killed by just such an accident. And by the 1950s, people living in the area around the Old Town Quarry were complaining about rocks entering their gardens or smashing their windows because they'd come over the quarry perimeter, so pretty dangerous by then. But mechanisation took place. 1868, machines came in. Still needed muscle power, but machines came in. Steam crusher came in, and by 1880 there was even a 10-ton road roller. So the stone that was quarried, it was either fashioned, again by the workmen, into blocks for building, either shaped or random, and other stone was crushed for road surfacing. And 1880, Weston had 25 miles of road surface, which all needed to be surfaced, and it was surfaced with the chippings from the Weston quarries. Later on, towards the end of the 19th century, we even managed to get a tarmac plant installed, and that was producing 40 tons of tarmac a day to cover the stone roads with tarmacadam or bitumen. So again, you can imagine this was not a pleasant haven of wildlife, art and culture as it now is. It was a workshop. It was a noisy, messy, smelly, smoky, stinking sort of place, brewing tarmac. Not a nice environment at all, but a very important part of Weston's development. 1914-16, during the First World War, it expanded. We needed more and more stone. And in 1920, a weighbridge was put in. And if you go to the quarry today, the weighbridge is still there. So this could weigh the amount of material coming out of the quarry via lorries, because there was a problem. The lorries, if they were too heavy, were damaging the very roads from which their stone had been used to build the road, in much the same way as our modern battery cars are damaging our roads because they are too heavy. Interesting how history repeats itself, isn't it?
We don't learn.
We learn, but we don't take any notice of our learning. The 1920s, a further advancement where compressed air drilling came in. So you didn't have to ram a great iron rod into the fissures. You had compressed air drilling, high explosive into it, but then electric firing. So no longer were men lighting fuses and running, hopefully fast enough, away from it. Times moved on. Weston became a borough in 1937. The new borough council took over operations of the quarry, and by the end of the 1930s, the independent quarrymen had ceased to exist. All of the people then working in the quarry were employed by the council, so that was a material change in work practice. 1953, there were cheaper ways of getting stone, and Weston Old Town Quarry came to an end. What do you do with an old quarry? It's a hole in the ground. You can fill it with rubbish, not a very good idea in the middle of the town. So nothing really happened. It became a bit of a dump for boats, some of which were just left there out of season, some of which were left to rot. And the brambles took over and it became an eyesore. Various ideas were put forward. 1971 and in the 1980s there were plans put forward to build blocks of flats in the quarry. They didn't come about, as is obvious, and in the 1980s the Civic Society, Weston Civic Society, proposed to Woodspring District Council, then owning the quarry, that perhaps the council would like to hand over this embarrassment to the Civic Society, who could obtain funds to do the place up and turn it into something that we see today, a bit of a nature reserve, do up the buildings, install a cafe in there, and generally create a new chapter in the history of the quarry, and at the same time trying to interpret the quarry so visitors could find out a bit about the history. And that went on from the 1980s, thanks to the Civic Society, up until almost today, when the Civic Society had reached the end of its ability to both maintain and manage and bring it up to date. And so Weston Town Council stepped in, took over the management, has a 30-year lease from North Somerset, which owns it, and we can now see the result. It's turned into this wonderful mix of a nature reserve, a place for culture, a place for art, for education, and just for relaxing. Here we are in the town, and on a warm, sunny day, the quarry is heaving with people just enjoying themselves as they ought to. And of course, the future is wonderful, isn't it? Because tourism is changing. A lot of people are looking for something else, and one of those somethings else could be encouraging people to walk from a revamped Grove Park up the hill to the Old Town Quarry, experience the quarry, have a meal in the quarry, wander up the footpath into Welbury Woods, explore the wonderful Iron Age fort, continue on to Prince Consort Gardens and Burnbeck Pier, which is itself seeing a new lifestyle. So the future bids well for not just the quarry, but the whole context of where the quarry is and what it's about.
Well, thank you for that, Tom. Just a couple of little points that I would like to make. In the early days of the quarry, as you say, many people had the right to just go and take stone from the quarry. So is this where the expression, people often talk about some of the architecture, and they say, oh yeah, it's built from the local freestone. So is that where that expression comes from?
Yeah.
That stone was free, and that's what they've used to build properties with?
What an interesting question. Will you go away and research that for me? No, I don't think. No, I don't think it was because the stone was free. It's the way in which the stone is cut. I think. But that's some homework for you too.
Thank you for that. I will pass it on as but other than that, and the other thing, the shape of the quarry, it's almost like a basin.
Yes.
Which, to my small, uneducated mind, I think would make an ideal outdoor performance space.
Absolutely. It is a...
It's a bit like the Mare version of the Minac or something like that. That would bring people.
It is indeed an arena and has been used for musical and art events, and there's great potential there. There was a very small attempt to do this in a small quarry at the top of Wood Lane, just off the Upper Bristol Road, back in the 1970s. And I can remember going up there. You had to sit, all fairly basic, but Shakespearean productions in a small quarry in the woods. Yep, the potential really is there. Have to be mindful, of course, that it is a nature area as well. So in bird breeding seasons and so on, you have to be very careful. And equally, it's in the middle of a residential area. So it might be nice having a pop concert up there, but you have to be mindful that people do live in the area as well. So
I think possibly theatre type production.
Absolutely, yes.
Shakespeare,
yes.
Dickens recitals.
And who knows? I mean, organising outside events in England is fraught with obvious problems, but climate change. Certainly the summer we're experiencing this year is giving us the wherewithal to really think about outdoor evening events.
Even cinema type, outdoor cinema.
Outdoor
Project it onto that quarry face.
Yes.
Would be amazing.
Yes, what is that?
I think.
What is that wonderful Italian film, Cinema Paradiso, which is a wonderful, wonderful film of just this, a cinema screen being set up in the middle of a small Italian town, and everybody coming to. Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
And people from near and far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you ever so much.